And he said, keep praying. I tried to pray, pray aloud, but the Holy Spirit was not permitting me to do that. So I reduced the voice very low. And he said, while you're praying, I want you to keep looking. And while I was looking, it was as if the cloud I was seeing engulfed the moon. But the moon was still shining. And then while I prayed, after a while, they did as if they were, in a movement. And that cluster that was surrounding the moon, they went as if it was like a crowd movement. They surfaced all around the moon. Then the Holy Spirit asked me a question. Why do you think man fails? And I became worried. He said, when you open the scriptures, littered in the scriptures is the promises of God to man. Promise of provision. Promise of protection. Promise of guidance. And in order to make sure that man enjoys that particular promise or promises of God, God also gave man principles and say, when you obey these principles, you will enjoy these promises. And then he began to speak to me. He said to me, just like the clouds you see that clustered the moon, he said, these are the attractions that faces man roundabout. And the only intention that those attraction has is to separate man from the promises of God. And then he said, just like the clouds surrounded the moon, and as you prayed, you looked, it dissolved. He said, the promises of God surrounds man, but they will live like a cloud and leave the man alone because man has failed to obey the principles of God. Then I asked him a question. I said to him, your principles are much. So how is it possible that man can be able to obey the totality of your principles, so that the promises you have made to man will be able to enjoy those promises. Then the Lord said to me, there is one button when he created man. He said he put that button into man. As long as that switch is on, he said man would live an independent life. Man would do things the way he wants. He says to me, whenever you see a man living his life, whenever you see a man do things the way he wants, he said it is only because that switch is on. So I began pondering. I said, what switch is that? The Lord said to me, once the switch is on, man would never understand the realities of life. Because man lives independent of himself. He will eat what he wants to eat. He will drink what he wants to drink. He will go to places he decides to go to. He will have people around him or her called friends. That is his decision or her decision. Because the switch is on. And then I asked him a question. Why can't you off the switch? Then he said to me, when I created man, the switch was the exclusive preserve of the identity of a man. So if he offs it by himself, he said man has lost his identity.